Views and content expressed in the following program are not representative of ONTV or the Board of Directors. ONTV and its Board of Directors do not endorse the views, thoughts, or content of the following program.
Hello, this is Political Talk, the political show that we hope we will have conversation that will make you think. We are not trying to tell you what to think or how to think, just to think. Todd is my partner here, and sometimes it gets a little volatile, so please be ready for it. Hopefully we can keep it low. Again, there's no teleprompters, no idiot boards, no cue cards, just ad-lib conversation. We have no idea what we're going to say, so just listen in and hopefully we strike a nerve, make you question things.
And at least think about what we're talking about. That way you have the chance to educate yourself in our political arena that we have here currently in Michigan and in the national scene as well.
Also in the local. Every once in a while we bring up local, not too often, but
only the senators and
something that
state reps we don't
happened
get
to
along
me
with.
when I was working on the ship. I had a lady come up to me, and she had asked for something specific, so I went and got it for her, and she said, I work for the BBC. And I said, oh, really? I said, a lot of the people I worked with on the ship watch the BBC because the BBC gives strictly facts. Take it or leave it. This is what happened. No extra conversation, no slant in any way, shape, or form.
No sugarcoating, huh?
Nope. So I said, yeah, and they really like that because they actually get news. And she says, well, how is it here in America? And I said, oh, well, in America, well, you just turn on whatever channel makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they say. What they're doing is, if you're conservative, you turn on Fox. If you're liberal, you turn on CNN, or if you're this station, you turn on this station, but you turn on what makes you feel good. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. And I think this is very detrimental to our voters because we're voting on emotion and not logic.
Mike, I got a question for you, and it's about the news channels. Do you think that it could possibly be the owners of those TV stations lean towards their specific parties, or do you think it maybe the reporters themselves ought to start putting their own opinions on them, or less of their opinions?
Well, I would say less of their opinions, but there's a couple of things that one comment that was made by Joey Scarborough was the more you lie, the more we'll check. Now, the thing is, if I can tell that you're lying, you must not be a very good liar.
This is true.
And if you are lying to me, I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican, you insult my intelligence.
Depending on what the lie is, I would think.
Not only that, but when we elect these people, they are supposed to make our lives better, make our lives prosper. But what they have done is they have sold their souls to special interest groups. They want the power. The parties have gotten so powerful that they've, like you say in past shows, they've forgotten the regular person. The thing is that the average person, and I have brought this up when I campaigned, was if you want to know how good your government is doing, look about you and open your wallet. We are spending money on the most asinine things.
We or the government?
The government, okay.
Okay.
This is your money. If you don't have a problem doing that, well, just take a few dollars and throw them in the street. When I get on the phone, I remind them, you work for me.
Right.
Now, every time I get the end of my paycheck, I live paycheck to paycheck. And
Like
in
most
some,
of us do.
in some instances, I don't even make the week. And And it's very troubling because when it became a two-income family, those families can't survive. Here's a dumb example, but I'll throw it out to you and let you take it from there. Schools. When I went to school, athletics were paid for, band was paid for, you got your instruments, you got your books, you got all of this stuff. Now, school is a shelter that you go to, and when you get in, you have to pay your fair share. Well, you already did pay your fair share.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that money going?
Well, somehow in between the last, I'm going to say, well, we're going to have 8 years of Schneider, 8 years of Granholm, and we had 12 years of Engler, if I remember right.
No, 8 years.
8 years. It was Blanchard that we had the 12 years in.
No, 8 years.
When did they put in the term limits?
With Engler, but
That's what I thought.
Blanchard, well, he messed himself up.
Right. But either way,
yeah.
What the issue is that we're having here in Michigan is instead of putting the money properly where it goes, I'll give kudos to Rick Schneider on this one. He just raised the budget for the public schools from $13.4 to $15.2 billion. But they still have the same problem. They're not putting it towards our teachers in our classrooms. They're putting it all towards administrations, and it isn't the administrations that are running our schools. They might be the figurehead for it, but it's actually the teachers and the principals that are running it. Now, it didn't help here this last fall where we had 12 principals indicted for embezzlement, basically, from stealing from their schools. But the whole fact is, it isn't the administrations that run the schools.
Well, I'll join you in those kudos when he gets the money, because yes, he did sign it, but he hadn't figured out a way of getting it. Now, how exactly he's going to get it?
This is true, but
I mean, I can. If I were up in Lansing as governor, hell, I'll make it 20 billion. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen. I mean, you do these things after the fact, not before.
Well, I think a way to control it and to set it, I think control it is a good word for it, because I think they need to put caps on some of these all the school administrators, superintendents, and the councils already are low paid, but the superintendents, they're overpaid, basically. I mean, if they put a cap on it, a fair cap. I'm not saying, give them the job for $30,000 or anything like that. A fair cap.
Fair.
And then put the money towards our teachers. Give our teachers a 10 to 15% raise, and then actually put the money towards our classrooms. Because I think I brought this up many times. You've got elementary, and this is basically K through 6 teachers out there that have paid for school supplies out of their own paychecks. Now, they don't even get that money back.
No.
So that tells me the classrooms are underfunded. We need to bring our kids are our future. I mean, they're going to be our future state reps, our future state senators, and our future governor. We need to teach our kids the proper ways of right and wrong, and we need to fund their classrooms. We need to bring them up to speed. I'm against Common Core, and if anybody's listened to this TV show, I've said that numerous times.
Okay, just for those of us who don't know, what is Common Core?
Common Core is basically a system that's meant so that every state follows the same guidelines. So in other words, supposedly if you move from Michigan to Ohio, our children are being taught the exact same thing. But to me, basically, it's learning test to test and how to take a test. I guess they over-test our kids all the time. And I just don't believe in the Common Core system, because to me it hampers our teachers' abilities to be creative, because sometimes we have a child that's a little more strong-willed or behind the curve a little bit, but the creativity of our teachers is what brings that child up to speed, or if they need the extra help. But I mean, we've got classrooms that have over 30 kids in them now. You've got other states that actually have a law that states a classroom can't have more than 28 kids in it.
Well, one thing that there's certain classes that I feel should be absolute. One would be a government class, a business class, you need to know how your government runs. Not just because you need to know the president and that, but you need to know the functionality of them and the court system and what happens. Because if you have no idea, these people are directing your life.
I'll add one more to you on that one.
Okay.
And not just a governmental class. I think they need to teach a constitutionality class.
I'll agree with that.
Which is a strict study of our actual Constitution and Bill of Rights.
And you know, to take that, you know, the Second Amendment, it comes up all the time, and interpretation of it. The interpretation has been twisted and turned.
And I don't understand that, because it's one of the simplest amendments we have on there. It just straightforward,
and
shall
now,
not infringe upon.
Well, now the First Amendment is starting to be twisted and turned, and even though you hate the fact that I'm going to bring up the federal government, today they did another press conference, but now they weren't allowed to film it, nor were they allowed to record it.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Freedom of the press was an absolute issue. Now, we teach the Founding Fathers, and we teach the Revolutionary War, and we teach how things happened with the Pilgrims and all that, and that's all very well, but that was one of the reasons. That was a legitimate reason. There was no freedom of the press. It was a monarchy. And yet we
right,
teach
but they're
that.
not the only one that's doing that. We've got courts now. They call them closed courts, and they cite privacy reasons. So, I mean, I know where you're going with the freedom of the press on this, but they're still a part of our judicial system. Why are they allowed to do it, and then our executive branch isn't?
Well,
I'm just asking. I'm not saying I agree with it.
I'm not saying I agree with that either. But
Right.
what I am saying is this, that the thing is, you start a slippery slope where, well, we'll cut this, and then we'll cut this. Well, if you want to go back into history again, let's go back into what Hitler did and Stalin. They controlled the press. Now, Russia is still doing that. Okay, when you control the press and you control what people are allowed to know and not know, when you hide things, our government, they work for the people. But what's happening now, not just in the federal government, but also in the state, where they have closed things off. They have closed off the offices. They have closed off the particular people who are supposed to be working for us and said, no, 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 you can't talk to them. Oh, wait a minute. Then I don't need to pay my taxes if I can't talk to you.
That'd be a good way to get their attention, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you know where we'd end up?
In jail.
Yeah, well, you know,
Well, actually prison, but
Bill Schuette would have a fun time with that. He loves jail, even though he came out in the paper this week and he said, no, he doesn't like that. He's full of crap. He not only likes it, he helped push it.
Yes. He's matter of fact, there's a gentleman that I've been kind of researching a little bit since the legalization of marijuana and stuff's been going on here in the state of Michigan. Rick Wershey, Jr. You know, he was up for parole, and I guess he was denied again by Bill Schuette. He's flat out tried to keep this man in prison. Well, he's kept him in prison as long as he's been in office anyways. And it was all about one gentleman. I believe he's been in prison 29 years. He was a minor when he got in trouble. I guess it was for one marijuana cigarette, and he's gotten a life sentence. That was put into place by Truth in Sentencing by Bill Clinton. But the whole thing is, you know, this just goes to prove the system is not set up to be fair anymore. It's all, and it's gone back through there. That's the criminal system that we have.
I agree with you on some of that, but some of it, Rick Wershey, it was a little bit more than one cigarette.
It was a nonviolent marijuana charge.
It was actually, his father was the one dealing the dope, but the kid got caught with it.
Yep.
And because he was messing around with Coleman Young's niece, who happened to
Are
be
you
married.
sure about that before you bring that one up? Okay.
Coleman Young's niece was with one of the Chambers brothers.
Right.
And the story goes that Mr. Wershey was asked to give information.
He was an informant. I do know that as well.
Well, he said no, he wouldn't do it until they said, oh, by the way, you're going to the same jail as Chambers brothers. All of a sudden, he turned around, and they said, well, you know, you had your chance. So he was in a bad way. The thing is, we have conflicting statements now. Schuette, who, you know, again, I'm going to use my favorite word. He's one of those politicians that if he told me my ass was on fire, I'd ask somebody else. He says one thing and does another.
He's a flip-flopper.
He goes with the flow, whatever benefits him. Another one is Jeff Sessions. Now, people who smoke marijuana are bad people. Well, we did the same thing with alcohol back in Prohibition. People who drink are bad people. Well, both of these issues, which we're going to bring down in another show, have special circumstances around them which people have to, you know, come to terms with.
Right.
Part of the school curriculum that I was trying to allude to is now we have schools of choice, which are schools for profit.
Charter schools.
And I want to say this, that John Engler had put in a economic racist system.
Yeah, it was
when he
definitely racist, yes.
And, you know, times have changed. Many things happen in between that time.
Well, Engler's system I never agreed with when I learned about what it was. I don't agree with it then, and I won't agree with it now.
The thing that I look at it right now is each child is an investment.
Yes.
Our government should put such an effort towards that to make people
they need to encourage people. They need to lift people up and make them successful.
Yes.
You have that pride in the people of your state. You know, the sense of community's strong, but our two-party system has divided our communities.
Yes.
And our children are paying for it.
Well, one thing that has come about in the schools that I've really found very disheartening is the fact that kids do not know how to converse in a civilized, respectful manner.
Oh, no, it's all this now.
It's that. Well, now the thing is, now you have politicians who supposedly are our leaders doing the same thing, but going just as bad, if not worse, on them. And the lies that are being told. We are learning, our kids are learning from these people. So what do? They take Betsy DeVos, who paid her way in by money to Trump and delivering the west side of the state.
Right.
Now, she's a billionaire. What I didn't know was that she owns quite a few of the collection agencies for student loans. Not only that, she also owns some charter schools.
Yes,
well,
that's why she's so strongly for the charter school system.
Well, now wait a minute. The charter schools are taking kids away. Okay, like I said, I want to dispel any thought that all of them are bad. They are not. There are some very good ones out there. And if we went by those models.
Well, I am a strong advocate for our public schools. I realize they're down right now, but here's the thing, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this. A charter school is basically a public school, but it's a public school for profit.
Yes.
And anytime you have a business, the idea is to make a profit, or else you can't stay in business. So if you're so targeted to making a profit, as a school, our children suffer. Because if for some reason or another that school drops in its profitability, they either raise tuitions, if there is a tuition to it, which it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be, because it's state funded. You know, and from what I understand, some of the charter schools, actually their teachers make less than our public school teachers on some cases. But the whole thing is, if they're going to treat our schools like a business, their idea is to make a profit. And they don't care how they get to that profit. Our children suffer. Again, some of them are real good, and our children are getting a good learning. Good learning. That wasn't very good grammar, but hey, the whole thing is they get a proper education. But when I was a kid and when you were a kid, there's about 6 years difference there, but either way, public schools in Michigan were ranked up in the top 10 or 15 out of the nation. Now we're ranked at 39 because they don't want to put the money properly where it goes.
But schools did more than teach. They developed social skills. They developed community. They were part of the community.
They generally were the center of the community.
Yes. Now,
It's hard to
Parents-
have that center of community now when they're closing the school, and then you have to
like you say,
bus your child or ship your child off to a completely different school
Yeah.
district.
the priority right now for charter schools, the priority is the bottom line.
Yeah.
The bottom line's not reached, well, then we have to cut. Okay, so they're at the mercy of the number one priority.
Right.
In the public schools, the priority is to teach. Well, the state legislature, in their, and I'm going to say this, in their racist ways towards Detroit. Was Detroit a good system? No. No, they could have been better.
But they were underfunded.
There was one person, Robert Bobb, who came in there. He was put in, I want to say, I think by Snyder. I'd have to check on that. But Robert Bobb came in, and he tore that place apart, and he saw all the things that were wrong with it, and he fixed them. He was one of the few bright spots that was in there. He actually was putting the Detroit school system back, and people went against him. Parents, these are your kids.
I mean, we have a great school system here in Lake Orion.
Lake Orion is,
There's a lot of them out here in Michigan, but the whole thing is we need to have all our school districts great school districts,
Yes.
and we need to treat each and every one of them fairly.
when I was in Hawaii, I used to brag about the Lake Orion and Oxford school systems. Also Berkeley. We have some great schools here. If we would just put down this crap that they're doing and say, look, focus on the students, focus on the people who are teaching our students, focus on the environment around them, and leave all this other stuff out of it.
Well, you gotta.
You need a governor that will do that.
I'll give you that one. We definitely need a real governor. The one we have isn't a real governor. I'll behave myself on it.
Okay,
I just think he screwed up drastically.
Yeah, he dug himself into a hole, and now it's going to be hard for him to get out. And unfortunately, now he's going to be the butt of a lot of jokes.
Oh, he's committed political suicide. There's no doubt about it.
And it's a shame because he wasn't the one that only did it.
No.
There were some others who now are trying to capitalize on it and bring their phony baloney crap around.
I think they're just as equally involved with it. I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Brian Kelly and Bill Schuette.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we got through this without much damage. We hope there's a lot more to it, and we encourage you to talk and think about what we're saying. Our schools are extremely important. These are your kids. This is not a Democrat-Republican issue. These are your kids. When you watch them go up to that graduation, the pride in you should be that is monumental. And our government should pursue that.
Yes.
So,
we need to add, we need to rebuild our sense of community around our schools. We've gotten away from it so far, and then, like I said, when that sense of community is gone, the schools close, and we lose our kids to a new district. So we need to bring it back.
So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next on Political Talk. Thank you.
Have a good evening.